Beach Agency's Inspector General, would come forward and say, this year we could or could not produce audited financial statements. And in the process of trying to produce audited financial statements, we can't produce audited financial statements, and part of the reason is we have undocumentable adjustments of $59 billion or, whatever the number was. And so in this annual sweep-up, whereby the individual inspector generals would report into the Secretary of the Treasury and to the General Accounting Office, which is the auditor for Congress, it would come through this annual sweep, and they would come in and say, okay, we can't produce audited financial statements, and we have this much of undocumentable adjustments. At some point after the numbers got really crazy, they just decided to, after 9/11, they just decided to stop reporting them. And now, when people say to me, well, what is $3.3 trillion of undocumentable adjustments? Let me give you an example. In fiscal 2000, the Department of Defense had $2.3 trillion in undocumentable adjustments. Okay, now, there's no way for us to know, Jim, how much of that translates into cash. Because $2.3 trillion is more than total taxes paid in a year by, say, the taxpayers in that year would have paid about $1.6 trillion. So there's no way to know if $2.3 trillion translates into how much cash or how much cash is missing. What we do know is under the laws of the Constitution, which say money cannot be spent unless it's appropriated, it is essentially a violation of the Constitution to do that, with one exception. There are, and this is where the black budget comes up, there are provisions under the National Security Act of 1947 and the CIA Act of 1949 for military and military intelligence to claw money from out of different agencies' budgets and spend it on non-transparent purposes. That's sometimes why it's called the black budget. And what I found both as Assistant Secretary of Housing and then what I found with my company as the lead financial advisor and then with a group of sort of the honest guys kicked out of HUD was you had an agency whose legal purpose and political purpose was to help finance the mortgage markets, whose mortgage insurance programs were increasingly caught up in financing black budget operations. And this is very much tied to what's going on in the mortgage markets. Do you, by any chance, Jim, do you watch the Soprano TV show?
I don't watch television, but I'm aware of some of the themes and things that go on in the program.
Congratulations on that, because I don't watch TV either. Approximately about 2 years ago, one of the things that developed on the Soprano TV show was that Tony Soprano's new big business was HUD financial fraud. And it's interesting, the financial fraud that Tony Soprano was doing was very much one of the predominant kinds of frauds in the HUD single-family portfolio, but one of the ones used to finance the black budget, and one of the models that was very prevalent during Iran-Contra.
You know, it's amazing, Catherine, as we've seen the U.S. develop more into a financial economy, I guess a sign of the times, the mob moves into mortgage finance.
Yeah, there's kind of it's really simple. If you had a company, Jim, that was not being productive, the way that would stop is ultimately somebody would pull the financing on you. Your bank would pull your financing. The SEC would not let you finance in the stock market at some point. You know, if you had a local or state government, the credit agencies would pull the plug on you. But part of the problem we've had in this country is we have a federal governmental apparatus that can be non-transparent, not follow the laws of how the money's supposed to work, function, outside the boundaries of the law, and yet continue to finance. The New York Fed can and the Federal Reserve can continue to print currency and continue to borrow money, significant amount of money in the securities market outside the boundaries of the law. And the problem we have as investors is, one of my favorite people, and I know he's been on your show before, is Bill Murphy and the guys at GATA. They've done a terrific job of documenting the manipulation in the gold markets. And for many years, I've tried to get Bill to understand that the manipulation in the gold market that he is dealing with is sort of the same people and same players that are manipulating the mortgage markets and the mortgage bubble. And they can do it, whether they do it in the gold market or the mortgage markets, because they have access to a governmental apparatus and financing apparatus which is not accountable and not transparent.
Catherine, this raises another subject. In addition to your own experience, this weekend's edition of Barron's did an article called Swept Away.
Uh-huh.
It was how Fannie Mae keeps its losses from selling the bottom line. And many investors may not be aware of the way the derivatives market works, but certain kind of investments, if they're held for long term, are carried on the balance sheet at cost. You never mark them to market. Other investments that are considered for trading purposes are marked to market, but there are certain accounting rules that allow not only what you saw
right.
at HUD, but organizations like Fannie to sweep losses
right.
onto the equity statement of their balance sheet.
Right. I think the hardest thing about being an investor today is how do you get accurate information about the real values in an economic... I mean, how do you understand what Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac's portfolio is really worth? How do you trust the books? And it's unnerving because the market, part of the thing that's keeping the stock prices where they are, from what I see, is tremendous manipulation within the markets. So we're looking and tracking a political economy, not something that behaves according to traditional economics, because you're not looking at honest books, and you're dealing in a situation where, in 1 year, if the federal government is missing $2.3 trillion, where does that money go and where is it being reinvested? That's a huge cash flow that can take the markets one way or another.
Well, the other thing that you have, too, is even if you were to come from an accounting background, like, let's say, myself or yourself, you look at Fannie Mae's 10K filings last year, there were 181 pages. And some of them... I mean, that's become a novel. I mean, it's
right.
almost like you have to become Sherlock Holmes
right.
to really find out what it is that you're looking at, and even then, you don't know what it is that you have, because most people don't realize that the bulk of the $200 trillion, and that number just astounds me in terms of its size.
I know, it's kind of overwhelming. Let's make it simple, because 5 years ago, I decided that I was going to start traveling around the country by car to see what was really happening on the ground, because I think you can always understand an economy by simply walking around. And I used to, when I was on Wall Street, I used to do diligence by going to the company and just going up and down in the elevator and talking to the secretaries. Let's talk about what things look like on the ground in America and what that means to the credit of a Freddie Mac or a Fannie Mae. In the mid-'90s, Jim, we knew that a huge amount of jobs in America and sort of income-generating activities were going to get outsourced to Asia. I mean, those decisions were made in the early 90s, and we knew that was going to happen. And I was a leader in Washington of promoting a model whereby Americans paid down their debt, refinanced their communities and themselves on an equity basis, and redeveloped their skills. I mean, we knew the workforce was going to have to re-engineer itself, and our pension funds and retirement arrangements were not going to be financially credible unless the workforce reinvented itself and paid down its debt, then. And if you go to my website, I have a story called The Story of Edgewood Technology Services about a business I started as an investor to basically sort of beam in data servicing jobs to any community where we took a position as an equity investor. My theory was, buy into the real estate on a securitized basis at a low price, swing in jobs, create a capital gains. But the idea was to make online training and job training very accessible. So we knew then we had a problem. And what happened is my team was kind of kicked out of Washington, and a decision was made, instead of re-engineering folks' skills or sort of migrating them to equity and starting new businesses, a decision was made to float the economy on the biggest wave of debt that I can imagine. And what we've done is we've seen consumer debt skyrocket. I have a member of my group, the Solari Action Network, who reconfigures the BEA statistics once a quarter, and what his calculations show is very much what I see on the ground in communities